Hello, everyone, and welcome back. So, in the last lecture, we were discussing about Cloud IAM, and this is the continuation of the same, or maybe you can say like part two of Cloud IAM. And I'll just do a quick recap before we discuss about service account, which is a very important type of user in GCP, and we'll also have a demonstration wherein how you can communicate to different APIs within GCP using service account, because at the end, everything is API in GCP. So we discuss like what is identity and access management, like who can do what on which resources, whereas like who is the user and called as identity or the principal, what is mean by the roles and the permissions which we have in place, which can be assigned to the user identity or principal, whatever you call, and which resource. So that's again which we have discussed, who can do what on which resource. I have just jotted down those types which we have discussed, which is like who is the user identity or principal in GCP, and this is like types of users wherein we can have users in terms of Google account, Google groups, and service account, which we'll be discussing, which is the most important out of these three. And we do have another type of users like workspace identity users, but that's part of Google Workspace, and I'm not discussing those things over here. So Google account is nothing but a kind of your Gmail ID or individual user account. As we mentioned, it's just a kind of Google account. Everyone does have it mostly. So there are two types of Google account: individual user account and the organizational account. Individual user account like your Gmail ID, like in my case, I do have a Gmail ID of myself and one for the Cloud Bootcamp, as you could see in the screen. And the organization account are nothing but it is being tied to an organization, like for example, this Amazon.com, HCL.com. These are called as organizational account. Google Groups, we just discussed, like you can have a group being created and wherein you can add the members inside it, and you can have different groups like developer groups, administrator groups, and network admin groups, and you can add the users inside it. The benefits of Google Groups, like useful for assigning roles to multiple users. User loses roles when removed from the group. So that's it. And the next is what is defined by the permission and role. So as we discussed, like permission can be of different types. Like for creating a bucket, there should be a permission like storage.bucket.create. Deleting the bucket, this is the storage.bucket.delete. And listing the objects inside the bucket, it's like storage.object.create. And for permission, remember this is important. The syntax is like service.resourceType.verb. So over here, the service is storage, resource type is bucket, and the verb is like create, delete, list, etc. And we also discussed about role. Role is nothing but collection of the permissions. And then it's like we have a role like admin, wherein we can just assign few permissions like creating storage buckets, deleting or maybe listing the buckets, and then even have a role like developer, and which can have more privileges like creating, delete, listing, and get storage.object.get. So that's how you can have different roles: administrators, developers, network engineers, security engineers, so that security engineers cannot do work for admin, and you can segregate those roles and permissions. Like network engineers cannot create a storage bucket because he's intended to work for network side, which is VPC network and so. And storage engineer cannot create a network because that's a network admin's job. And what else? We also discussed about types of roles, which is like there are three types of roles in GCP. One is primitive role, which is also called as basic role, created by Google. And these are broader in scope, as we see like owner, editor, and viewer. That's a lot of roles, right? If someone is having it can do anything, and it's a risk to assign such kind of roles. And that's where GCP, they have also created predefined roles, which is again created by Google itself, which we have seen in the last video. And these are specific set of services, predefined roles. Like for Google Cloud Storage, you can have some predefined roles. For network admins, you can have some predefined roles. For compute engine, you can have some predefined roles, and you can assign it to the different teams as such. And why I'm repeating this again, because if anyone haven't seen the last video, it can be helpful. And as I mentioned, like IAM is an important topic, so I just thought to give a recap, although it can take 5 minutes, but it will be useful. So predefined roles like compute admin, storage developer, I think it should be a comma over here, but yeah, it's a typo. Custom role is the last type of the role wherein we can define least privileges access, and custom roles are created by users and not by Google as such. And you can have minimal permission, like you can have a custom role wherein you can just remove the delete option and keep everything like create, list, and everything. So that's a custom role, because in predefined role, it is by default delete is also there, right? So that's wherein the custom roles comes into picture. And let's say suppose in your organization, you have teams of 2 teams being merged, like compute and storage team. So you can have a custom role wherein you can take predefined roles from compute admin and maybe storage admin and just create a custom role with only one role. Now, this is the most important, which is the service account. But before that, let me just show you how it looks like in the portal. If you go to the GCP console, and if you just go to IAM and admin, and there is an option of service account. So if I just click on it, so currently we don't have any service account as such. And I also wanted to give an overview on what is default service account in GCP. Don't get confused, but the default service account is automatically created by GCP. So let me show you a demonstration. So in this account, I haven't enabled any single API. So let's try to enable the compute engine. For example, let's go to compute engine. And if you see, let me just click on compute engine. It's still opening, I guess. Yeah. And over here, I'll just go to service account. If we could see, this is empty. And let me just also create a duplicate over here. So if you see, I went to compute engine, I haven't enabled the API, and I usually enable the API by going into APIs and services and then going into library. Live demos may take time, so just bear with me, guys. So if I just type compute engine, because this is quite important, I just thought to show it to you how those default service account gets created. And if I just open this, I'll just click on enable this compute engine API so that I can create some virtual machines. It can take some time. So if you see, currently we don't have anything over here, but once this API is enabled, you can see a default service account for compute engine API will be created by Google automatically. It is taking time. That usually happens in the live demo, so just bear with me, guys. And let me just refresh it to see. It is still enabling. So let me just pause this video for a moment until it gets enabled, just to save some time. So I think it's done because I do see a service account which is created. Let me just refresh the screen. Cool. So it says now manage option. That means API enable. We could see like this. Yeah. And if I go over here, now we see a single entry. And if you see, this is our previous screen. And this is a single entry which is being created. And now if I just go to our previous screen and just refresh it, we should see a service account. So once you enable any API in GCP, most probably you'll see a default service account as such over here. And this is created by Google itself. So that's the thing which I wanted to show before we started off with the service account. And yeah, so now what we'll be doing out in this demo is, let me create or open a paint window just to showcase like what's my plan. So like this is a kind of virtual machine, or maybe just type VM in GCP. And now this VM wants to interact with Google Cloud Storage or Cloud Function maybe. So we will be using service account in this case. So let's say suppose this is Google Cloud Storage, which is called as GCS, and this is Cloud Function. So what we'll be doing out over here is like, let's say suppose in VM you'll be having an application which is running, right? And let's say suppose this application will be using Google Cloud Storage for any purpose, like for dumping the data or anything like that. So how a VM will perform those actions is using the service account. And we will be giving out a role to this service account so that this service account can access the Google Cloud Storage as such. So in short, like I'm going to demonstrate by creating a VM and creating a service account attached. And the attached service account to the VM will have a specific permissions so that VM cannot do any other operation beyond that. And service account that can be used by our application or a VM, right? And not by a user as such. So generally, what we do is when we go to the Google Cloud Console, let's say like you are a user and you have an email address, right? In my case, I also have an email address like this, which I mentioned. And if you see my ID, it is like owner, if I still remember correctly. Yes, it's an owner by role, as we have seen like in the roles, right? We have owner, editor. These are all primitive roles or basic roles, owner, editor, viewer, or browser. So I do have a owner access as such, and with owner access, I can do whatever I want to. Like I can create a new project as we have seen previously. I can create compute engine. I can create Google Cloud Storage. But what we'll be doing out over here is we'll be creating a VM inside GCP, and we'll just be granting few accesses only, or we'll be attaching a service account as such, and then we'll be granting two roles like storage object viewer, so that storage dot object dot viewer, and we'll be granting storage dot object dot create. So only two things from this VM, we should be able to perform operations on Google Cloud Storage. So let's get into the demo and let's create the service account first. Yeah, over here. So let's say custom SA-demo, and Google automatically creates the service account ID. If you want to give a description, you can give like this service account is used to get or maybe with the buckets and create objects inside the bucket. Let's click on agree and continue. These two are optional, but I'll still show you. For the timing, let's click on done. So this is our service account, which is like custom SA-demo, which we have given the name. And if you see @ it is a cloud bootcamp IAM something. So after @ it always takes the project name, or sorry, project ID. So if I go over here, if you see, this is my project ID, A-cloud-bootcamp. So I'll just copy this service account. I'll go to IAM so that I can assign the roles or permissions. If I just click on grant access, so you see, as I mentioned, everything in GCP are like called as a principal. It's not a user, but for understanding, you can also think it like a user. It's just a user itself. It's just like they have given it as a name, like principals are users, groups, domains, or service account. Yeah, quite easy. So I've just mentioned the custom service account which we have created just now, and I'll be assigning a role. As I mentioned, I'll assign a role of storage object viewer, so that we can, let me just choose it, storage object viewer, grant access to view objects and their metadata. Let me click on it. And let me add another role which we mentioned, like storage object create, so that we can add some files inside the bucket. Storage object create a role. Okay. And let's just save it. And let me go back to service account again. And over here, let me create a compute instance where we'll be attaching this service account as such. If you remember this, like, yeah. So let me create an instance. So basically, we'll be accessing the Google Cloud Storage using this service account from this instance. Yeah, that's what the role we have assigned. So let me give a name, custom-SA. You can give whatever name you like. Demo. I just take a region of Asia Southeast one, which is Singapore. This is fine. I'll just choose a powerful machine so that our demos will not be hanging anywhere. Let me take 4 CPU and 16 GB. If I go down now, yeah, this is quite important. So identity and API access. So if you see, currently it shows Compute Engine default service account, but we don't want to use the default service account. And what is this default service account? This is the one which GCP has created automatically, if you remember. This is that. And one other thing I wanted to mention is like once you choose the default service account, then only you can define the access scope, like which is mentioned over here. But if I choose my custom service account, which is like this option will be grayed off. So if you could see, yeah. For the time being, I'll allow anything and I'll just hit on create. So what I'll be doing, I'll be accessing the Google Cloud Storage from this VM using a service account as such. I'll be accessing, this is the one GCP API or one GCP service, and this is another GCP API. So if you want to have a API to API connection or communication, whatever you call it, so we need a service account as such in GCP. Let me just hit on the refresh to see if the machine is getting created or not. I'll quickly SSH this machine. I'll just authorize. So now, as you could see, I'm into this Linux machine. And if you remember, we assign storage object viewer and storage object create. And if I just show you in the console, if we just go it over here, and if I just go to storage, I already created a bucket for you guys just to save some time. Oops, okay, I have deleted it. So let me create a new bucket. Or else it is like SA bucket service account bucket demo. I'll just keep everything as optional. Sorry, I'll just keep the default setting and just hit on create just to save some time. So this is the bucket which is getting created. If I go back, this is the bucket. And if you see, there is nothing inside the bucket. So let me upload some files like this main.df. Let me upload another file, variable.df. Yeah. And I'll just copy this bucket name and I'll just run few commands over here. So for listing the buckets, right, you should be running this command gsutil. ls is for list and gs again, which is Google Storage, and the bucket name as such. So this is the bucket name which I've copied. Yeah. And if you could see, it is showing those two files under my bucket. If I can show you like this. There's main.tf and variable.tf. So as I have given this role, which is storage object viewer, right? I'm able to view those objects inside the bucket. And now I have also given another role is storage.object.create. So let's see if you are able to create any object inside the bucket. So for that, let me create a demo file, which can be created by touch and demo file. Okay, and then let's copy this demo file in the bucket. For that, the command is gsutil cp, which is for copy, and let's give the file name demo file, and we need to copy this in the Google Cloud Storage, which is gs -- and we need to copy to this bucket. I'll just paste the bucket name, and it says copying completed. So as we were having a role of also creating objects inside a bucket, so we are able to do that. And now let me just list the files again to see how many files we have. So if you see now, we also have the demo files which we have created. And let me go back to console and just hit the refresh. We should be able to see that over here also. So yeah, here you go. So now let's see, I haven't given the permission to create a bucket. I have given a permission to create the object, if you could see. So let's see, create bucket is working or not. And it shouldn't work as we haven't assigned the create bucket role. So this is a create object role, which is inside the bucket you are creating files and not creating the bucket. So now we are trying to see if we are able to create the bucket or not. This ignores the typo if there are any. Yeah. So let me go to the machine and just run the command to create the bucket. So command for that is gsutil mb, which is for make bucket. Again, gs : / let's give a name, test bucket, and it should give us an error because we don't have the permission. So yeah, you see it says access denied. This custom SA demo service account does not have storage.bucket.create. Yeah, if you see, we have previously given storage.object.create, like you can create an object inside a bucket, but you cannot create a new bucket. So this needs this permission, storage dot, if you could see, storage dot buckets dot create. Yeah, this permission is needed. And let's see if we are able to delete an existing bucket. So the command for that is, so I'm just writing it over here. Now we are trying to delete the bucket, and it also shouldn't work because we haven't given the permissions. Should not work. So let's go back and let's try to delete a bucket. gsutil rm gs : and let me try to give this bucket a name. And it should give us an error stating you don't have required permission. Oops, something wrong. Oh, okay. I need to add rm minus r. Sorry, guys. And we should get an error. So let me clear the screen and run the command again so that you get to see that error clearly. So you could see it says this custom service account do not have the storage object dot delete access. Yeah, I hope now you have an idea. So if to delete the bucket, we need this permission as such to be assigned to the storage bucket. So this is how we have seen like how we can talk to different APIs in GCP. And I hope this was helpful. And yeah, this is how you can make use of Cloud IAM. So this is quite a useful topic as such. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. And in case of any questions or queries, comment down and I'll try to help as much as I can. Thank you.